This is David Diaz, former WBC lightweight champion of the world, and you're listening to The Grueling Truth.
Welcome, everybody, to the Inside Boxing Weekly Show on the Grueling Truth Radio Network. I'm your host, Mike Goodpaster, and I want to welcome in my co-host, as always, Jeremiah Preisser.
Good evening, Mike. Happy to be here. Always happy to be here. I want to welcome in our viewers. Got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we haven't been here for the last 2 weeks, so here we go. We're going to start off with 2 weeks ago, Yoshihiro Kamegai, KO8 over Jesus Soto Karass. What was your take on that one?
I was actually happy with the result. I thought Kamegai won the first fight, albeit a slight edge. But in this fight, he seemed better prepared. He was doing a solid job of countering most of the shots Karass was throwing. He just looked sharper, looked quicker, looked a bit bigger. Karass, he looks like he's looked for a little while now to be on the downslide, but like always, he showed his heart. He came to get it, but Kamegai was just a little too good, and he ended up stopping him. I was pretty happy with the result, and it was a good fight. Just a bit sloppy on the part of Karass, but yeah, again.
Well, I think that as the old timers used to say, I think Karass is getting a little shop worn.
Yeah, he's a little long in the tooth, isn't he? I mean, he's had a lot of wars, and he's given us a lot to like about him. But I mean, even during the fight, the commentators were saying that Karass was thinking about retiring, and I think after a beatdown like that, I think it's time to hang him up.
Well, what is it? I forget what old boxing trainer used to say it, but once you've thought about retiring, you're pretty much retired.
Yeah, that's what they say. I think that they even mentioned that in the fight, but it was a good fight, and especially for an undercard fight.
All right, we had Chocolatito, Roman Gonzalez. We got Carlos Cuadras. Gonzalez, I think, won the fight as we all thought he would, but I mean, it was a tough fight, and it was an entertaining fight.
It was. I mean, most of us weren't really too familiar with Cuadras. I mean, his record looked good. We all knew that he was a title holder. But he really brought his A game. I mean, he looked real sharp in spots. I mean, he had quick hands. He had enough lateral movement to kind of disrupt Gonzalez's aggression. But Gonzalez is just an excellent aggressor. There are very few little men who I've seen ever as good as him. I don't think he's going to be as good at 115. I mean, he started at 105. So he was a little guy, and I thought he looked small at 112. But Gonzalez, he went out there, he tried. He looked even a little winded, and that's the first time I've ever seen him look that winded. I think it was in the 8th, 9th, 10th rounds. But in the last round, he made sure that the judges were going to score it in his favor, and he went out there and took it. I was really impressed with the performance from both guys, and I think a lot of us wouldn't mind seeing a rematch.
So, number one, do you think the fight was really that close to have a rematch right now?
I think it was close enough for people to demand it. I don't think that would be most fans' number one choice. I think Inoue, the Japanese fighter, I think that's the number one choice for most of us. But at 115, Cuadras rematch is damn good. Also, I've heard that Juan Francisco Estrada is moving up to 115. He's banning his feather or flyweight title to come up, and so Inoue, Gonzalez, Estrada, all at 115. That means it's an excellent division, and those are 3 potential pound-for-pound fighters. I really like what's about to happen in the future.
All right, now we will go to the main event of 2 weeks ago. We had Gennady Golovkin stopping Kell Brook in 5 rounds. Was it pretty much what you expected?
No, not quite. I mean, for me, Golovkin looked sloppier than I'd ever seen him. I'm not sure.
I think he was sick, because before they even mentioned him being sick, when he came into the ring, I'm watching with my son, I said, man, he don't look right. I mean, he looked kind of pale, and I mean, it didn't look like the normal Triple G. Yeah,
he did. He looked sloppier than I had ever seen him. He looked slower than I typically see him. And, he had this happen before when he fought Kasim Uma. There were rumors surfacing that he was sick, and that was still maybe his toughest fight to date. But, he just went out there and tried to jump on him early, but he just looked, again, sloppy. His punches were slow. He was missing a lot. And for a guy who's a well-known jabber and a guy who's well-known for his accuracy, it's just uncommon to see. But he still did the trick. I mean, 5 rounds is pretty good for Kell Brook. You know, Kell Brook had his moments, though I think the crowd kind of led on that Brook was doing a little bit better than he was. I don't think Golovkin was really fazed by the shots, and I think that's part of the reason why he had no problem boring in. You know, but Brook looked sharp. He'd probably been better off going to 154 at first, but, you know.
Yeah, I think they pushed this fight about a year or two ahead of time.
Yeah, again, I would have wished for Brook and Thurman to have, you know, established a new line, and then maybe, you know, because he is a big guy. I mean, a defense against Spence wouldn't have been too bad either. But, I mean, he's been a big guy for a long time, and I think 154 would have probably been his best bet. But either way, it was a good performance by Brook, and I'm happy that these British guys have, you know, they've been showing a lot of balls, you know, which some fighters, Canelo, you know, haven't been showing. But Golovkin went out and did what he was supposed to. When he finally wanted to put the finishing touches on the match, he did that. So we're hoping that, you know, the WBA keeps their word and we get Jacobs Golovkin soon.
So, I mean, do you think that's what's going to happen, and do you think Jacobs has a chance against him?
Well, again, it's hard to say. The WBA said if the Canelo fight fell through, then they would order Jacobs Golovkin. I mean, honestly, this fight should have been ordered a long time ago because Jacobs is, you know, he's paraded around as some world champion by the WBA, some regular world champion. It's all silly, but as essentially a glorified interim titleist, Jacobs already should have been the mandatory, and they already should have gotten it on. But Jacobs has a shot. I mean, he's a talented guy. He's got a lot going for him. He's got good hands, good power. He can box a little bit, brawl a little bit. But that chin is just always going to let him down against the best of the best like it did against Dmitry Pirog. And I think it's only a matter of time before Golovkin beats him up. And if Golovkin chooses to jab like he did against Lemieux, I don't see Jacob as that competitive. I don't see very many middleweights at all as that competitive. But it's a top-rated guy. It's a guy with a good win against Quillen. And, you know, until the Canelo fight happens, I think it's a decent fight.
So what do you think Kell Brook does from here? I know he was making noise over the last day about possibly fighting Canelo Alvarez.
Yeah, I've also heard that he may want to fight Liam Smith. I don't really want that to happen.
I don't know why he wants to.
I don't know either. I mean, maybe because he got a little recognition after fighting Canelo. Maybe he feels it's a good introduction fight. And, you know, ticket sales will be good because it's a domestic showdown. I'm not exactly sure. Kell Brook also seems a little hesitant to give up his IBF 147-pound title. So I think he's just kind of – I think he's going to mull his options over for a little while and decide what's best for him. If he could make 147 and fight Thurman, I would love that. If he could still make 147.
I'd like to see him fight Spence. I think Spence is better than both of them.
He may be, but in my opinion, until Spence beats a top 10 guy, Thurman is his next biggest challenge aside from Pacquiao, which I don't ever see happening. But Thurman Brook, that's a fight that I'd really love to see. And then if he could squeeze in a Spence fight beforehand, I'd love it before he moves up to 154. But right now, I think his options are pretty plentiful, at least between 147 and 154. But I can't tell you where he's at mentally and how he feels physically. So, it's hard to speculate. But I'm happy for him, and good luck to him in the future.
All right, we'll move to this week's fights. The undercard of Alvarez-Smith. We had Willie Monroe over Gabe Rosado. What was your take on Monroe?
I thought Monroe looked pretty sharp. Monroe's actually looked pretty sharp in his last 2 outings. He boxed, I believe, Brian Vera in his last outing pretty clearly. He had his nice, quick southpaw jab working. He's got quick hands, countered well. Rosado, he's looked a little, I think he's looked a little rough lately. He barely won his last outing. Some people even thought that he lost it. But Rosado's one of those, you know, gritty journeymen that a lot of us really like to watch. But
yeah, who Monroe, now, like Karass, is a little shop-worn, I think.
Exactly, yeah. Now, I think Monroe looks sharp, though. I think Monroe's options, I think they're pretty plentiful now. I mean, he's had 2 pretty good wins. Unfortunately, there's not a lot to do up there because Golovkin holds most of the major titles. So like most guys, he's just going to have to aim for Billy Joe Saunders. Whether he gets that fight or not, I don't know. Billy Joe's been a little hot and cold lately. I'm not sure what he's trying to do, but solid win for Monroe, and I think he does pretty well against the other top guys.
All right, and that brings us to the main event. So Canelo-Alvarez, KO9 over Liam Smith. I watched the fight, of course, for free on the computer because I wasn't going to pay to watch the fight because I kind of knew what was going to happen. The thing that struck me is this. I don't know if it's just because of the way Liam Smith fights, no lateral movement or anything, but this is the best Alvarez has looked in a while. But I really think it comes down to just Smith not being really much of a mover and not really giving that many angles.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think Smith's style was pretty tailor-made for Canelo. I mean, Canelo doesn't have good foot movement, but he's got pretty good defense. He can counter well. To me, he looked bigger. He looked a lot bigger. I mean, clearly, the dude's a damn middleweight. I've heard that Smith typically comes in around 170 on fight night. Well, Canelo looked about 10 pounds bigger than him. But I just think Smith's lack of world-class experience, his kind of rough style, sometimes he puts the earmuffs on and he doesn't look too sharp. His timing is a bit off. But he was game. He was tough. But it was just a setup fight. I'm not going to be wasted. If
the fight was on HBO, it would have been worth watching.
Yeah, if it was on HBO. But
it's not worth paying. What was the price on that? $69.95?
Yeah, I thought it was like $65, $70, something like that. It's ridiculous. I mean, who the hell is paying for that besides Liam Smith's extended family, maybe Canelo's extended family? I don't know. It was just I can't believe they're wasting our time with that.
Let's face it, in a year or two, you can pay $70 to watch Canelo fight Triple G.
Yeah.
You might as well save it till then because your wife might get mad at you if you keep buying all the boxing pay-per-views.
Yeah, she's gonna look at our bank account and be like, what the hell is going on here? Like, baby, just
Liam Smith was on, honey.
Yeah. She's like, who the hell is that? No. My wife would fucking probably, she'd be a little upset if she saw the bill for that. But, I mean, it was just a fight that, I don't know, it was kind of a waste of our time. But, I mean, Canelo looked good. I mean, he threw a lot of sharp punches, and he's a good fighter. In my opinion, he's a pound-for-pounder. I mean, if only because he's fought a lot of good fighters. And he's looked sharp, but he just has so many advantages in his favor. I'm just kind of tired, and I just want to see the Golovkin fight.
And the thing to me is, still, if he fights somebody that gives angles and moves, he's never shown that he can really deal with that.
No, I mean, obviously he was clearly outboxed by Mayweather. They were real hesitant with the Lara fight, and Lara gave him all sorts of trouble. Lots of people thought Lara won the fight. Really, it was Lara's activity that lost that fight for him. But
Lara had to fight there to win, but let's face it, Laura's not getting that decision anyways.
No. We've seen time and time again that Canelo and Oscar, they've got the connection, and we've seen some weird scorecards with Canelo participating. I think he got a draw in the Mayweather fight on somebody's card.
I thought he won it on one card.
No, I think it was a draw. Either way, it's absurd.
So they made it a majority decision. Right.
Yeah. It was a draw. But it was absurd. But, I mean, Canelo's been getting that sort of stuff.
I'm sorry. I could see the Tim Bradley first fight over Manny Pacquiao more than I could have seen Canelo over Mayweather.
Oh, yeah. No, I completely agree. But, yeah, they're going to stay away from, in my opinion, they're going to stay away from guys like Lara again, Demetrius Andrade. And good, thankfully for Canelo, I think he's going to be a middleweight soon. I mean, he even said that may have been his last fight at 154. No shit, we already knew that. We knew you didn't have to take that fight anyways. But he won't really have much problems with that at 160. There are very few guys who propose that sort of stylistic challenge for him.
Yeah, he looked a lot bigger than Liam Smith.
Oh, yeah, and Smith, again, he comes in at 170. But, again, at 160, maybe Monroe, he gives a little lateral movement. Billy Joe Saunders has a little lateral movement. But not many guys at 160 are going to have to he's going to have to worry about that for. So
I think Triple G gives him enough angles to cause him all kind of trouble.
Yeah. Golovkin does a lot of things to cause a lot of guys trouble.
Yes. Which is why he didn't want to mess with him, or maybe it's not him that don't want to mess with him. It's probably Golden Boy.
Yeah, I know, and it's the weirdest thing, too, because Oscar, you know, he had some close fights, but at least he fought the best. And when he became a promoter, I thought he was going to follow that model. That's what he said. But, yeah, he's milking Canelo for all that he's worth until the Golovkin thing reaches a fever pitch.
Yeah, it's not going to happen till then. That'll bring us to our one fight this week we've got to preview. Jorge Linares against Anthony Crowell for the lightweight title.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for it personally. I mean, whenever there's a fight and a new line, a new real championship is going to be established, I'm all for it. I'm always for it. I mean, these are the type of fights that should happen. The best fighting the best. I mean, Linares is a guy that I've always really liked. In my opinion, he's a pound-for-pound talent, though he's looking a little faded in recent years. In my opinion, he was sublime in his prime. The problem is he had papier-mâché for skin, and his chin wasn't great, so he lost some odd ones, like in the DeMarco fight where he was winning clearly, but he got busted open. And it's good to see him in a linear championship here. Crolla, he was the underdog in his last fight against Barrosa, a hard-punching Colombian. And honestly, I thought the Colombian was going to win as well. But Crolla was a hard-nosed guy, went in there, banged him to the body, and eventually got him out there. It was a real good win. So I'm excited for this fight. Stylistically, I think it plays in Linares' favor. I think he's a bit quicker, has much more experience at the top, real good counterpuncher. But again, with Linares' chin, with his skin, you know, it's tough to say exactly how it plays out, but I'm excited for it again. And not only that, I'm excited for I think it's going to be held in the UK, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
and again, it's just going to be exciting just on that alone. The British fans are amazing, and I'm excited for this one.
So who do you like? You like Crowell, or do you think Linares has enough left in the tank to hold him off?
Linares, I think, he had a tough scrap with Kevin Mitchell. And I think Kroll is a little bit better than Mitchell at the moment. But I think it plays in Linares' favor stylistically. And I think Linares earns a decision. Again, Cronulla is a tough guy. He took some good shots from Barrosa, who had a high knockout percentage. But I think Linares squeezes it out, and I think we got a new lightweight champion.
All right. Any final words? Any boxing prospects you've seen recently you want to talk about or anything?
Yeah. Actually, a couple fights that I'd really like to mention real quickly. The IBF title holder at 140, Edward Troyanovsky, he fought Kieta Obara over not this weekend, but last weekend. And this dude, he doesn't look. He's not as skilled as, say, Terrence Crawford. I don't see him beating a Crawford, but the guy is a massive puncher, hardest puncher I've seen at 140 since Bailey. And if you watch the fight, it's only 2 rounds. He knocks Obara out of the ring, kind of reminiscent of Muskayev and Rockman. Not quite that bad, but he knocks the guy to the floor. Guy hits his head on the floor. His pants are, down around his knees, and he makes it, I guess, in time. He makes it in time to the ring for it to continue, and then he just gets stopped real quick. But this Troyanovsky guy, I don't see him getting many quality opponents soon. This guy can really crack. But another fight I'd really like to mention is the Alexander Usyk versus Golovkin fight, which is for the WBO cruiserweight title. Golovkin's looked pretty damn good in his last 2 outings. He dropped who's the American? Cunningham. He dropped the American 4 or 5 times. He dropped Cunningham like 5 times in a good showing, and then he beat Marco Huck in an upset. But Usyk looks like a big Vasil Lomachenko to me, except his punch, he has a little more one-punch power. He looked really good. I mean, he became the fastest to win a title at cruiserweight. He actually beat Evander Holyfield's mark by 2 fights.
Now, you do know they fought this weekend, right?
Yes. Oh, sorry. Yes. And he looked really good. I mean, he looked like he was green. He was fighting with his nerves a little bit. I could tell that he was trying to pace himself. but he worked the jab really nicely, counter-punched effectively, and won pretty damn clearly, in my opinion. I had him winning 9 rounds.
Yeah, I think the judges were 119-109, and the other two were 117-111.
Yeah, and I think those were fair scores. I mean, the British score seemed to have it pretty close, which I thought was a bit odd, but Usyk looked really good for a 10-fight pro, and I'm hoping in the future he'll get big enough, because he looked bigger than Golovkin. I'm hoping he gets big enough to where he'll be a potential prospect for Anthony Joshua. Good fight, though, good prospect. I really like the guy.
All right, so is that all you got for us this week?
That's all I got right now.
All right, guys, make sure you check us out next week. We will be doing this show weekly, so we missed 1 week. We apologize for that. And it was a week where we had the big pay-per-view between Canelo and Liam Smith. Aren't we glad, or aren't we upset that we missed that?
No.
So, guys, remember you can check us out on iHeart, iTunes, TuneIn, Google Music, pretty much anywhere you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. You can check out all of our articles, everything at gruelingtruth.net. You can follow us on Twitter at Grueling Truth. You also have a Facebook page, of course, The Grueling Truth. Make sure you check out Gridiron Mo, our main sponsor. It's an interactive football app where you get to call the plays during a live NFL game and see what everybody else is called, and maybe you have the highest score in the country. But, Jeremiah, we will definitely be back next week. Let's plan for maybe Sunday afternoon or something, or Sunday night. We'll record the show. It'll be out Sunday night or Monday morning then. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good, Mike.
All right. So for Jeremiah Preisser, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.